Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. FPL Consult here, and in today's video I'm going to share with you guys an early Game Week 4 wildcard, and at the end of the video I'll also share a free hit draft for those of you who are on that strategy. So if you guys enjoyed today's video, please do drop a like, please do subscribe as well, and let's start off talking about the Game Week 4 wildcard and some considerations that I would have if I was on a wildcard for this week. Now, the first point that I have here is that 3 game weeks have passed already. I mean, that is factual, but we have learned a lot, right, about the expected minutes of players. Some players we expected to start right from the get-go, but maybe they're being benched at this point. We kind of overestimated their expected minutes. And then also some teams I've seen from you guys have picked up a couple of injuries. And the thing is now, before Game Week 4, we're going to have the international break. So there is a weekend off in terms of FPL, but the players will be going to the international games. And basically, sometimes injuries do crop up during the international break when players are with their national teams. In which case, a wild card in Game Week 4 will be able to fix all these issues right at one go, right? All the issues that you pre-existingly already had and anything that crops up during the international break. So I think genuinely Game Week 4 in terms of a wildcard is the first real quite popular window I would say that people would be wildcarding. Now, another reason why I think it would be quite popular is because there is a mini fixture swing for Liverpool as well as Crystal Palace. Now, Liverpool have had a couple of difficult games at the start, but now they are going to face in Game Week 4 Burnley, and then in Game Week 5 it's Everton, in Game Week 6 it's Crystal Palace. It's a small little fixture swing for players like Salah, Gakpo, Ekitike, Virgil van Dijk, all these players that people want to go for when Liverpool have this set of good fixtures. You will be able to go for them on your Game Week 4 wildcard. Same for Crystal Palace as well. In Game Week 4, they're going to have Sunderland. In Game Week 5, they also have a very, very plump fixture. I think moving forward, Crystal Palace is a team that we could very well set and forget in our teams. So I do feel like this mini fixture swing for Liverpool and Crystal Palace is quite a benefit of a wildcard in Game Week 4. And in terms of the structure of the Game Week 4 draft, I've played around with a couple of variations, but I still feel like going Salah plus Haaland is the way to go on a Game Week 4 wildcard, and it's what I would do because it basically means that I won't have to free hit in Game Week 6. If I go for a Salah-only draft, and I say Salah-only draft because I doubt you would go without Salah on your Game Week 4 wildcard when he has Burnley and he's the best captain. So if I go for a Salah-only draft, what that basically means is that you won't have Haaland for Game Week 6 when he plays Burnley and he will be the best captain then. In which case, I think right now in Game Week 4, if you're wildcarding, you may as well just go for both of them. Try to find a way to fit both, which I think I have kind of been able to do it without sacrificing too much. I'll show you guys the draft later on. But it basically means that I'll be able to save the free hit in Game Week 6 with this Game Week 4 wildcard draft that I'll show you guys. So I think that's one of the ways that you can approach a Game Week 4 wildcard. And lastly, if you are on a wildcard, I think it's important to study the fixtures and be mindful of fixture swings that are incoming for Tottenham as well as Arsenal. And what I mean by this is for Tottenham, basically they are on a good run of fixtures from now all the way until about Game Week 8. From Game Week 8 onwards, their fixtures start to turn bad. So if you happen to have some Tottenham players in your wildcard for Game Week 4, be mindful that from Game Week 8 onwards, their fixtures start to look quite bad. And for Arsenal, it's the reverse, where now their fixtures are pretty bad, but come Game Week 7 onwards, starting with West Ham, their fixtures start to look very good. So at the back of our minds, we do have to consider and find ways to at least get Arsenal players in to our teams by the time Game Week 7 comes around. So big picture in terms of Game Week 4 wildcard considerations, these are the pointers that I have. If you have any other things that you're considering that maybe I missed out, drop it in the comments down below. Let's have a bit of a discussion. But right now, let's have a look at the Game Week 4 wildcard draft. So on screen right now is a Game Week 4 wildcard draft that I've put together that is exactly 100 million. So technically everyone should be able to afford this draft, provided you have not lost too much team value in the first few game weeks. Now, Talking about the draft in a big picture view first, I've opted to go for a 3-4-3, and also this is a Salah plus Haaland draft. As I alluded to just now, I think this is the way to go so that you'll be able to save the free hit in game week 6 and don't have to use it just to get Haaland in when he plays Burnley. Now, starting in goal, I have Robert Sanchez. Now, he's at 5 million. I see no reason why we should swap out of the Sanchez plus Dubravka keeper pairing that many people have gone for from the start of the season, simply because Chelsea have been keeping many clean sheets. Yes, some have been lucky, but I think sometimes that is necessary. In terms of expected goals conceded numbers, they still have been putting up very decent defensive numbers, and the fixtures are there for them. So I think Sanchez here is still going to be the keeper of choice, together with Dubravka as the 4.0 million bench fodder. Now, in terms of the defenders, I've gone for Richards, Anderson, Virgil van Dijk, and on the bench, I have Diakite and also Rodon from Leeds. Now, talking about the starting 3 players that I have here, which is Richards, Anderson, as well as Virgil van Dijk, specifically for Game Week 4, they have great fixtures, right? It's Sunderland for Richards, it's Leeds for Anderson, and for Van Dijk, it's Burnley. And in terms of a rotation moving forward, because there will be some weeks that Fulham don't have great fixtures, there will be some weeks that Crystal Palace don't have great fixtures, then Diakite there is on the bench, ready to come on, because Bournemouth for the next few game weeks have quite a number of good fixtures. I've just decided to bench Diakite this week simply because he has the worst fixture out of the 3 that are already starting. But generally, I think after Game Week 4, even from Game Week 5 onwards, you can very well just start Diakite every single game week and rotate among Richards and Anderson for this kind of 2 defensive spots in your starting 11, right? So 3 players for 2 spots, and I think the rotation works quite well. I also fancy Bournemouth to also continue to keep a couple of clean sheets. That said as well, I think one of the main drawbacks of a Game Week 4 wildcard going with a Salah plus Haaland draft, as I show on screen right now, is that you can't go for 2 expensive defenders. Preferably, I would have wanted Munoz in this defensive spot here instead of Richards, but really you can't afford to go for Munoz and also have Haaland plus Salah in your draft and try to keep the rest of the draft looking good as well. So overall, some sacrifices have to be made. I've chosen to go for Richards instead to cover the Crystal Palace defense here. Now, in terms of the midfielders, Salah, it's a no-brainer. He's definitely here. But I will have to have Gakpo in here as well because he is much cheaper than Ekitike. If you're already going Salah plus Haaland again, budget is tight. So Cody Gakpo at 7.6 million is almost 1 million cheaper than Ekitike. So I've chosen to go for him as the 3rd Liverpool asset. And definitely I would be tripled out on Liverpool because they play Burnley, Everton and Crystal Palace in the next 3. So a triple up on Liverpool is pretty much necessary. And Salah is the captain here. In terms of the other 2 midfielders in the starting 11, is Reinders and Ismail Assar. Ismail Assar is here for obvious reasons. It's to cover the Crystal Palace attack. I don't have Mateta in this draft, so minimally I have to have 1 Crystal Palace attacker for this great fixture, and also moving forward, their fixtures are quite good. So I don't mind having Ismail Assar at 6.5 million, quite cheap to have in the draft. And Reinders as well, 5.5 million. He has Manchester United here, and Manchester United just have not been playing very well. They just won Burnley, but that said, I think I fancy Man City to do quite well against United here. And the main thing is also that from Game Week 6 onwards, starting with Burnley, Man City go on quite a good run of fixtures, and that's also why, leading to Haaland here, I have Reinders and Haaland from Man City in preparation for Game Week 6 onwards. But also, I don't mind having them on the Game Week 4 wildcard playing against Manchester United. I fancy the chances here. And then, beside Haaland, it's Evan Nielsen and João Pedro. João Pedro is also a non-negotiable in my opinion. He has been scoring goals for fun for Chelsea. And even though he's not on penalties, he looks very integral to the attack. He's always on the end of those big chances. And set pieces wise, we can also see that he's quite a threat. He's got 2 set pieces now in the first 3 game weeks. So headers from corners. So I do like that he has different routes to points, and he's likely the talisman now until Cole Palmer comes back. Right, so João Pedro definitely in the draft, and Evan Nielsen here is to capture Bournemouth being on their good form right now. that they seem to be winning every single team. They somehow find ways to score goals against difficult teams such as Tottenham that we just saw. So Evan Nielsen here is just to cover the Bournemouth attack. I can't go for Semenyo because Semenyo is a little bit too expensive. I think he's at 7.3 million. Evan Nielsen is at 7. So it saves me a bit of money. If you can afford, preferably you can go for Semenyo instead. Now, as for the last player on the bench I haven't spoken about is actually King from Fulham, who plays Leeds in Game Week 4. So actually you could start him ahead of Reinders, for example. And the thing with King is that he actually scored or put the ball at the back of the net against Chelsea, but that was ruled out, after VAR and checks and stuff like that. But overall, King at 4.5 million has started every single game. Granted that he's been coming off for players like Emil Smith-Rowe, for example. But, I'm taking the chances here that he's just a bench fodder you won't have to use every single game week. And I think he's a better 4.5 million option than Mark Guiu from Sunderland. So that's the whole structure of this draft. A 3-4-3 with Salah captain, triple Liverpool, 2 Crystal Palace, and it's a Salah plus Haaland draft. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you're on a wild card and you're choosing to go without Haaland, let me know what's your plan for Game Week 6 and how you intend to bring Haaland in. Or are you set on a wildcard for free hit 6 strategy? I'll be keen to know. If not, let's now have a look at a Game Week 4 free hit draft to wrap up this video. So finally, looking at a Game Week 4 free hit draft, this time we don't need to look so far into the future. We pretty much only need to optimize the team for the fixtures that are right in front of us in Game Week 4. And I've picked out, in my opinion, the ideal 3 players from each of these respective teams that I've chosen to target. So I'll start off first with the Liverpool triple up in Virgil van Dijk, Mo Salah, who's the captain, and Ekitike up front. Now, in the previous draft for the wildcard, I went for Cody Gakpo because I wanted to save a bit of money in terms of my third Liverpool asset. But now you see here in the free hit for Game Week 4, I've chosen to go without Haaland. There's much more money to spread around, and I feel like Ekitike is the better asset to own as compared to Cody Gakpo, specifically just for a free hit. And I do have in the back of my mind rumors that Isak could still come to Liverpool. I've read a couple of tweets that it might still happen. Nobody knows. The transfer window is still open. But the thing is, Isak has not played a Premier League game in super long. So even if he somehow signs for Liverpool before the window closes, I still do think like Ekitike is, in terms of match fitness, definitely further in front of the pecking order as compared to Isak. And therefore, regardless, he will still get a very decent chunk of minutes against Burnley, and I fancy him doing well, better than Cody Gakpo. Now, that's a Liverpool triple up. Talking about Crystal Palace now, who have a very plump fixture as well, Sunderland at home. This is the one I think, they will score lots of goals as well. I've chosen to go for Munoz, Ismail Assar, and Mateta. Now, in the previous draft, the wildcard draft, I had Richards because, again, we needed to save money. But this time, there's more money to spread around. I think Munoz is definitely much more attacking than Richards, and I fancy him getting an attacking return against Sunderland. So he's in here, a little bit more pricey for sure, but I do think he's worth the value. Ismail Assar and Mateta are, in my opinion, the 2 best attackers to go for. I think these 2 are the names that always stand out when we're talking about Crystal Palace now that Eze is gone. Right, so Sa and Mateta completes the Crystal Palace triple up. Now, a couple of other players that I think you still have to have in your draft is firstly João Pedro, who can't seem to stop scoring right now, and then Semenyo, or at least one Bournemouth attacker. But because I've gone for Ekitike, Mateta, and João Pedro up front already, there's no space for Evan Nielsen. So Semenyo helps to cover the Bournemouth attacker, and Bournemouth just seem to be on a very good run of form right now, so somehow I still want one attacker in my free hit draft, and Semenyo against Brighton at home, this is a fixture I could see him scoring. Now, in terms of the last 3 players in the starting 11 I haven't mentioned, it's actually Nick Pope as well as the Spurs players in Porro and Kudus. So talking about the Spurs players first, in Porro and Kudus, I do think like this is a great fixture for them. West Ham away. West Ham, again, we know is not in a good run of form at all. But Spurs just lost to Bournemouth. But with that being said, I think West Ham are definitely a much worse side as compared to Bournemouth. And I fancy players like Kudus, who is getting 90 minutes right now as compared to Brendan Johnson, who just got taken off against Bournemouth around the 54th minute for Odebear. So basically, Brennan Johnson is definitely much more of a minutes risk than Kudus, and hence I've gone for Kudus here. But I do fancy Spurs getting a result against West Ham. So these two players helped me to cover that. Porro went off around the 70th minute against Bournemouth, but I do feel like that was a case of him having to deal with Semenyo a lot, and therefore going for Udogie that Thomas Frank kind of brought in around the 70th minute was a little bit more defensive-minded in terms of that change. But against West Ham, I don't see that happening, and I think it's likely he'll continue to get 90 minutes. And he has many routes to points. He has set pieces, he's quite attacking from open play, etc. We know the drill with Porro. And wrapping up this whole draft, it's actually Nick Pope against Wolves. Now, Nick Pope from Newcastle, I do think like Newcastle have a very good fixture against Wolves, but I just cannot ascertain right now the best attacker to go for, because we just saw that Harvey Barnes as well as Anthony Elanga both got benched against Leeds. So we don't know right now the experimenting that's going on in terms of the Eddie Howe's Newcastle side, but whether or not we go for Newcastle attackers, I think specifically for Game Week 4, there are more than enough good attackers to go for with good fixtures. So I've chosen to go for a Newcastle defender, cover the defense with Nick Pope here in goal. So wrapping up this whole free hit draft, on the bench I have Sanchez, King, Burn and Anderson. Sanchez is just there as there's lots of money around, so I can afford Sanchez to cover for Pope in case somehow he doesn't start. And then there's King and Anderson, both from Fulham, that we saw in the previous draft, the wildcard draft. They have good fixtures against Leeds, so if anything, they could come in. And then there's Burn against Wolves just as a backup defender. So this is the free hit draft. If you are on a free hit, let me know how different your draft looks from this as well. I would think that we can probably agree on triple Liverpool as well as triple Crystal Palace. But for the rest of the players, let me know where the differences lie. If not, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Please do drop a like. Please do subscribe as well if you found it helpful. And I will catch you guys in more Game Week 4 content coming very, very soon. Bye-bye.